This will be 7-1 for 8th grade. In this, we're going to be using those algebra strategies that we just practiced in the pre-teach lesson, and we're going to complete and write equations and solve 2 or 3-step equations. So I'm going to start off with just a couple of the examples that they gave us. So this is number 2 on the top of page 199. What we're going to need to do on this is we're going to write an equation and then solve that equation. It says a water tank holds 256 gallons, but is leaking at a rate of 3 gallons per week. I see the word per. I'm going to just put a box around that. A second water tank holds 384 gallons, but is leaking at a rate of 5 gallons per week. After how many weeks will the amount of water in the 2 tanks be the same? So we're going to need to write an equation here. On the left, we're going to have, let's see, so our first tank, we'll say is over here, and our second tank, I don't know why I drew a line there in the middle. We'll have our first tank on one side of the equal sign and our second tank on the other side of the equal sign. So our first tank, it starts with 256 gallons, and it leaks at 3 gallons per week. So that's going to lose, so 256 gallons, it loses 3 gallons. When I see this word per, it says per week, I'm going to include my variable there. So it's every week, and I'm going to use W as my variable because now I know W is weeks. It stands for W is, well, whatever. So 256, we're going to start with 256, and every week we're going to go down by 3 gallons. The one on the right starts with 384 gallons and is leaking at 5 gallons per week. So leaking, again, means we're going to go down. It's going to go down by 5 every week. And we want to find out what W equals where these two things are equivalent. Okay, how many weeks will the amount of water be the same after how many weeks? So what we need to do here is we should recognize this is a little different than what we did on the last question. We have a W on the left. We also have a W on the right. We have 256 on the left, 384 on the right. We're going to have to figure out how to make it look like something W equals something. So then we can divide by something and then divide, and we'll get W equals blank. So let's figure out how to get all this together. My first thing I want to do is I'm going to gather my variables. What I mean by that is I want to get them on the same side. Okay, so in order to get them on the same side, I'm going to have to do, like we did in the last one, an inverse operation. We did this in 7-1 pre-teach video. So I have a 3W here and a 5W. They're both negative, so I'm going to have to add. Now, I'm going to choose to get rid of this one because I prefer positive numbers over negative numbers. So I'm just going to show you both options. The first thing I could do is I could do plus 3W to both sides, plus 3W, and then I can see that negative 5 W's and 3 W's makes negative 2 W's. Now, because I prefer positives over negatives, I'm going to do it the other way. Because see, this is negative 2, but instead of getting rid of the 3W, what I'm going to do is I'm going to get rid of the 5W. So I'll cross those off, plus 5W, and then notice I have positive 2 W's here. I'd rather work with positive W's than negatives. So I canceled those off. So I'm going to write over here, I have 256 plus 2W equals 384. Now, this looks very similar to some of the last problems we did in our last section. I have 2 operations here. I have something added, and I have multiplication. The first thing to get rid of is this 256. Minus 256, cross it off, minus 256, because we do it to both sides. I have 2W equals, well, let's see, That'll be 14. That 8's regrouped into a 7. So I have 14 minus 6 is 8. 7 minus 5 is 2. 3 minus 2 is 1. Now, I have 2 times W, so I've got to divide by 2. Divide by 2, and I'm going to get W equals, well, let's do 128 divided by 2. 2's in 1 we can't do. 2's in 12 is 6. That'll be 12. That's 0. Bring down an 8 and 4. So after how many weeks will it be? After how many weeks will the amount of water in the 2 tanks be the same? This will be weeks at 64 weeks. After 64 weeks, these 2 tanks will be equal to each other. Okay. So there you have it. We could go back and we could check. We could do 3 times 64 and do 256 minus that. I'll just do that in a calculator. I don't want to hold up too much time. So 3 times 64 is 192. 256 minus 192. So on the left side, there's 64. And then I'm going to do 5 times 64. I'm going to do 384 minus 320. I have 64. So it's going to take, there's going to be 64 gallons remaining in each tank after 64 weeks. What I did was I just plugged in 64 here, and I plugged in 64 here, and I just solved that. 5 times 64, and I subtracted that from 384. 3 times 64, and I subtracted that from 256, just to check my work. For number 3, we need to write a real-world situation that could be modeled by the equation 30x equals 48 plus 22x. I want to make this kind of like it was in section 6.3, where we had a question about MP3s. And like I can see here, there's like an initial fee. There's a one-time fee. I always think of money. I think it's easiest for me to think about how much something costs. So we have 48 as an initial fee, and then $22 per blank. Here we have no initial fee, but it's going to cost $30 per blank. So let's just make up anything. How about we say this is a dog walking service. So we have one dog walker here, and we've got a second dog walker here. Okay, and this is a really fancy dog walker. So the first dog walker says, so let's give him a name. John charges $30 per, or I could say each, but I use per because it's similar to what we just had in the previous question. Per day to walk dogs. Carl charges an initial fee of $48 and $22 per hour to walk dogs. DGOS. Nope. DOGS. To walk dogs. So now we need to write a question, kind of like this one said. After how many weeks will the amount of water in the 2 tanks be the same? Well, how about this? After how many weeks, we'll use weeks again, days, because we're talking about days. And I said $22 per hour. I meant $22 per day. So after how many days will they have made the same money? Because we can see that Carl's not charging as much per day. However, he does start with $48, whereas John starts at $0, but does charge more. So they will be equal to each other at some point. And now I want to solve this. So we're going to do 30x equals 48 plus 22x. So I need to get the x's. I need to gather my variables. I need to get the x's on the same side. Minus 22x, minus 22x. So those cancel off. 30 minus 22 is 8x equals 48. One more step. I have 8 times x, so I need to divide by 8. Divide by 8. I get x equals 6 times 8 is 48, so 6 days. So in 6 days, they're both going to make the same amount of money, because 30 times 6 is 180. 22 times 6 equals, let's see, 132. And 132 plus 48 equals 180. That is when they're equal to each other, is when x equals 6. If x is 6, those are the same thing. So now we're going to go ahead and we're going to go to page 200, and we're going to answer all of those questions. Let's see, here we go. First one, it says use algebra tiles, but because I don't have you in class, you don't have any algebra tiles. So we're just going to solve it with algebra. So we have x plus 4 equals negative x minus 4. Step 1 is to get these x's on the same side. I can either subtract an x or I can add an x. I'd rather add an x, because now instead of having negative 2x, if I was to subtract from both sides, I'd have negative 2 over here. But now I'm going to have 2x, because x plus x is 2x's, plus 4 equals, those canceled off, negative 4. Now I got to get rid of this plus 4 before I divide. So minus 4, 2x equals negative 8, divided by 2, x equals negative 4. Because I divided by 2, that was 2 times x, so I do the inverse operation to get rid of that 2. So I get x equals negative 4. Number 2, we'll go right here. 2 minus 3x equals negative x minus 8. First step, gather my variables. Do I want to add 3x or add 1x? Well, if I add 3x, I'm going to end up with positive x's. So that's what I want to do. Plus 3x, plus 3x. Those cancel off, so I have 2 equals negative 1. There is a 1 right here. So 3x minus another x is 2x. And this minus 8 just comes straight down. Now, before I divide, I've got to get rid of this 8. So I get rid of the 8. Cancel those off. I have 10 equals 2x. Divide by 2, 5 equals x. All right. Number 3. I'm going to get rid of this here. For this one, we're going to have to solve the equation. It is a word problem, so we're going to also have to write an equation for it. At Silver Gym, membership is $25 per month, and personal training sessions are $30 each. At Fit Factor, membership is $65 per month, and personal training sessions are $20 each. In 1 month, how many personal training sessions would Sarah have to buy? So this is in 1 month. So this per month doesn't really matter. This is a one-time monthly fee we have, okay? And this per month, we're not going to multiply by months because months is 1. We're doing 1 month. How many personal training sessions would Sarah have to buy to make the total cost at the 2 gyms equal? So let's see. On the left, I'll have Silver Gym. Silver Gym is $25 per month, plus each training session is $30 each. So I'll just use X for how many training sessions we do. The other gym, the Fit Factor, is $65 a month, but their training sessions are a little cheaper, 20x. First step, gather my x's. So we can go minus 20 or minus 30. I know if I do minus 20, I'm going to end up with a positive amount of x's, so I'm going to do that one. Minus 20x, minus 20x. These are gone. I have 25 minus 10x. 30 minus 20 is 10, equals 65. Now I get rid of the 25, minus 25, minus 25. Those cancel off. Be careful, this negative remains there. We have to keep that. Oh, there is no negative because I got rid of it. So negative doesn't go with. So I have 10x equals, subtract these, that'll be a 0, and that'll be a 4. 10x is 40. Last step, divide by 10. Divide by 10, x equals 4. So it'll be 4. How many personal training sessions? So 4 personal training sessions. All right. So there you got it. Let's go with another color so we're not confused. Write a real world situation that could be modeled by the equation 120 plus 25x equals 45x. Well, let's just do it almost the exact same as what we did on the last one. We're going to charge a one-time fee of $120 and then $25 per day. So let's have how about a plumber? So, I guess we'll just give him a name. Adam charges 120 plus $25 per hour to, I said plumbing. How about for plumbing? So that's one person. Another name, how about Richard? Richard charges $45 per hour. After how many hours will there we say money? How about money? Money be the same. Okay, so we have 120 plus 25 per hour because x is hours in this problem. And the other person does 45 per hour. I'd also like to solve this. So we have 120 plus 25x equals 45x. First step is gather our x's, so minus 25x. Those are gone, minus 25x. 120 equals 45 minus 25 is 20x. Last step, divide by 20. Gone, divide by 20. 20, 40, 60, 80, 120. So that'd be a 6 equals x. Okay, so we didn't need to solve this, but I wanted to still solve it here. Then number 5, don't worry about solving this one. I don't need a real world situation because I feel like we'd kind of just do it the same way. Well, I'll just say one and then we'll just solve this problem. So the first person has $100 and they lose $6 every day. The second person has $160 and they lose $10 a day. Like that's all we would have to do. When would they be the same? So let's solve it though. My first step is to gather the x's. I can add 10x to get rid of this, or I can add 6x to get rid of this. I'd always add 10x here so that I end up with a positive amount of x's. So I have 100 plus 10x equals 160. Now I get rid of the 100 because I can't divide yet. Get rid of the 100. I have 10x equals 60. X equals 6. Don't worry about number 6 here. It's a pretty long word problem, and it just asks you how you solve these. And it wants you to write it in words. Don't worry about that one this week or on this section. But you will have 10 problems where you're showing me how to do these. So just in summary, when you have a problem like this, or like this, where you have a variable on both sides, because that's what this section is talking about. We have a variable on both sides. In our review and in sixth grade and 7th grade, we only had a variable on one side. So all that changes here is we have step 1 is to gather your variables. That means you either have to add or subtract them from both sides to cancel off one of them, Okay. Then step 2 So here we did step 1 in this top one. We gathered our variables, we got rid of them. Now all the variables are on one side. Step 2, we got rid of this 25. We got to add or subtract usually. We don't always have to. Now we might have ended up with just 10x equals 65, and then you can just divide. But then you just solve using inverse operations. And then your final answer is just your variable equals blank. Okay, and I want you to write your answers like this. So on your Google form, don't just put 4. Put x equals 4. That's what your answers should look like. As always, let me know if you have any questions.